Alright, today I wanted to make a video that's going to be as quick as possible to getting your Bonita process into testing, because if you work on a process for a really long time and you throw an error, it's kind of hard to figure out where exactly it's coming from if you don't have a lot of programming experience. So today we're going to make a eBay return merchandise authorization process where the customer logs in, they type in some information, and we apply some logic to either approve or deny their return merchandise request. So first thing I'm going to do is click New Diagram, and what I want to do is deselect the pool so I can name this process. So I click anywhere in a blank area. I'm going to click Edit. We're going to name our process. This will be eBay underscore RMA. Oop. Click OK. Alright, cool. So this is eBay RMA 1.0. So it gets kind of confusing when you start dealing with things like actors and things of that nature, but just kind of follow along and this will help a lot. So we're going to have to define actors. So the first thing we want to do is we'll have a customer, and we're going to add another one, and we're going to call this an eBay representative. We'll just call it rep. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go and screw around with the organization here. So we go into organization, we click manage. I've been keeping the default Acme group here. I'm going to delete these here and I'm going to re-add them just so we understand what's going on here. So I have two processes programmed into Bonita. One is for a company called Baja Sol that we've programmed a request raise process for them. And I don't really understand the hierarchy and the purpose yet because I'm still kind of a Bonita newbie. But what I'm going to do is just add a group under this organization called Baja Sol, just for ease of use here. So I'm going to go add group. I'm going to name this eBay customer, and then I'm going to add another group, and I'm going to call this eBay representative or eBay rep. eBay rep. Display name will be the same. eBay rep. Now it seems like it's a really powerful environment because you can do things like members and all kinds of crazy stuff. We're just going to keep the defaults here. And then I had, I'm going to remove my usernames here. And we're going to create users and attach them to one of those groups we selected. So I'm going to go add. Username will be, I'm going to give, it'd be nice to be able to have the customer be able to log in without having to use a username and password, but I'm not sure quite how to do that yet. So when somebody requests an RMA from us on eBay, we're just going to give them the username and password of RMA. That's here. And then the first name will be RMA, last name will be RMA, and their membership will be eBay customer. Where is it? Where is it? Ooh, we messed up. We didn't get, let's go back. eBay rep. We didn't name this. We got to name this eBay customer. Customer. Oop. Customer. Go next. Member looks good. And let's see here. RMA is going to get the credentials of. Why didn't that save? Let's go back again. Am I just being that dumb today? Let's see, eBay rep, eBay customer. Okay, so that looks good. Member. So RMA, let's just remove this. Maybe that'll refresh our group list here. Username will be RMA, which we'll give to the customer to process or to fill out the form to return their merchandise. General, first name will be RMA, last name will be RMA. Because you don't want to have to create an account for your eBay customers. That would be kind of counterproductive here. Okay, so now, yep, we have eBay customer, and their role will just be member. And then we're going to add another account to the list here, and this will be, what do we want to give our representatives usernames? We'll just go rep, and we'll set the password to the same, and rep, and the membership is going to be eBay representative, role is member. We're going to click finish. Okay, so we're one step closer to being able to test our process here. So, and we can see here customer has the little play button next to them, and that means they are the process initiator, which makes sense here. So next thing we're going to do is we have pools and then we have lanes. Pool, just imagine that as your entire process. Everything goes in the pool. So let's name the pool. We're going to edit this pool and we're going to call this RMA pool. And then the lanes we're going to name as well. So this will be the requestor, or we'll just call it customer. So everything that happens in this lane is stuff the customer does. And then let's see here, let's add another lane to our thingy here. And see, this is all under the RMA process. And now we're going to name this lane the rep. And then when you deselect it, in Bonita it seems like when you deselect, it actually will either save the changes to the database. So there's no like apply or save buttons, which is kind of convenient. It's a little weird, but that works really well. So my understanding of the way that this works, you have your start and then you'll have a process. Now I've had trouble just with the actual flow of these processes, so what I've been doing is actually adding my first part of the page flow, or the first form, I always add to the pool. It's either the pool or the lane, I forget. We'll find out here. So what we need for a process to process an RMA are going to be some key pieces of information. I'm going to kind of shorten it up from our entire process just so we can get this to testing as soon as possible. So we're going to select our pool and we're going to add variables. And this way, if we add them to the pool, you know, this black border goes around the whole pool, that's going to make them so that these variables are shared between the lanes and everything else inside of it. So we're going to go data and go add. And then let's start adding our fields here. So we're going to have the eBay item number. Go eBay item number, and that's going to be a textual based value. Even though it is a number, we could force it to an integer, which, you know, unless eBay adds alphanumeric, won't be a problem. But for safety, I'm going to keep it as text because we don't need to do any computation on it. We don't need to force it into a number. So let's go finish and add. So we got our eBay item number. We're going to want their PayPal email because that's going to make it easier for us to process a refund. So we'll go finish and add. That will be a textual based value. We're going to go PayPal transaction ID. So let the customer do some of the legwork for us too, so it'll make our job easier when we're trying to process an RMA. We're going to add a problem, or RMA reason we'll call it, and that will be a textual based. And what else do we want? Just some quick, let's add a double. Let's go amount paid. And we're going to set that to a double. A double is a number that has decimal places. An integer is a whole number that can go up to about 65,000 or so, and a long is much bigger without decimal places. If you need decimal places, you have to select a double. So we'll go finish and add. And we're just going to run with that for now. This isn't everything we need to do it, but like I said, we need to get up and testing this process as soon as possible, just in case we create an error. We'll be able to identify where in the process that is. So we have our variables, and the next thing that we need is, well, we have to have some interaction, and that's always done under the application tab, depending on what you select. If you select step 1 and you go to application, you would add a page flow, or add a page flow to that. Just the way I do it is I select the pool for the first step of the process, and I'm going to add a page flow. And what's cool about this is it's going to ask you, okay, what variables are you going to be using in this page flow? I'm going to be using all of them. There's going to be more variables later down the road, but for now, we'll just have these selected, and we'll go finish. And what's cool is that this is basically what the web page is going to look like. Well, this is the design mode. So let's put our PayPal transaction over here. And so we have what's called a label and the name. So if we're going to change the label here, we're just going to go item number. And we're going to click over here. We're going to call, and this is the PayPal transaction ID. And you can see it kind of cut it off there. So what we'll do is we'll play around with this until it looks pretty. RMA reason, it's going to require something bigger than just this little teeny text box. I mean, you can go bigger like that, but that kind of centers it and it doesn't give you more area. And the reason is that this is just a text field. We want a text area. And if we go under data here, we can kind of see the association between the control and the value here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete RMA reason, and we're going to get a text area to give them a little bit more room to type. We're going to expand it, and we're going to go output operation. We're going to say RMA reason takes a value of whatever the text area value is. And then we're going to make this English, so we're going to go back to general. We're going to set the label to reason for return. Hit enter. And then let's drag this one down here. We'll keep PayPal email kind of close to the PayPal transaction ID. I'm going to turn that into English, so we'll go PayPal email. And let's see here, amount paid. We'll change the label to purchase price, and it is a text field. And we can add a validator. I think, is that what we do? Validator type is going to be a double numeric, because we want to make sure that they're typing in an amount. And let's just keep it at that. Ooh, what's this little box here? It says contains a validator without type. Error message is required. Okay, there we go. Boom. Does that make our little red X go away? See, if you get a red X, that means bad. Let's figure out what we can do to fix this here. Actually, let's remove this validator for now. And we'll get into validators in a later video. We just want to get this to testing as soon as possible. Okay, so we got the reason for return, and then we have the submit button. So this looks good. So what we're going to do is we're going to try running this. Let's change this to English, submit without the 1. And looks good, looks good. Let's go back to our process here. So that is going to be, when we run this process, the first thing that gets run, because our pool gets instantiated, and it's going to run this RMA in the page flow here. So we have that. We changed the organization. We're going to have to publish that so those usernames and passwords are active, and then we're going to configure our process here, and we're going to remove this. Okay, so we have to map the customer to something. So we're going to map the customer to an individual user, or you could map it to a group. So I think if you map it to a group, so you got Billy, Sally, and John as reps. When they log in, they're all three going to see this. Our reps all log on under the same ID. What's this little? Okay, so we're just going to map that to a user. Same with the customer. They log in as just a user, which is just RMA, and the representative logs in as a user, as a rep. Finish. And then the last thing is the authentication. Because we deleted a lot of the old organization stuff, the defaults in Bonita, like Walter Bates is a default. I suggest setting the authenticated user to the process instantiator, which will be RMA, and that way when you test it, it automatically logs in as the process instantiator, so you don't have to get an error every time you test your process. So that's done, and theoretically we should be able to click run and get some output here. Let's see what happens. Here we go. It's going to load it up in a browser. Beautiful. So we have a reason for return. There's room for carriage returns, and it actually scrolls down. And we can adjust the size of this if you wanted to make it even bigger. So let's go item number. We fill out that information as the customer, and then transaction ID, and the purchase price of 40.50 and an email address, and we click submit. Now there's nothing catching the next step in the process, and there's no endpoint, but this is cool. So we're able to actually run this process, and so now we can take it a step further. Let's so we can apply some logic. So it comes in, and let's add a page flow and maybe drag this into representative. Let's just see what happens here. I want to just display the information as to the representative. So let's add a page flow, and we'll go finish, add all of those variables, and we just want to see if we can log in as a rep and see what the customer typed in. Let's see if this works. So click run. Ooh, some errors. Let's see details. No actor defined in this lane. Oh yeah, we have to define an actor for this lane. And that's under general actors. We're going to select an actor, and this is rep. It didn't throw an error on the customer lane because we already had the customer defined there, but now that we have something in the representative lane. And what's this little thing here? No actor defined. I think that'll go away, right? Won't that go away? We have an actor selected. I think if we click run, it should maybe, yep, rebuild it, and the little red arrow goes away here, the red, little red no symbol. Beautiful. So, okay, so we're going to go item number, and we tested one before. I'm just interested to see what happens. I'm going to type all 9s in for everything on this to see if we have 2 cases when we log in as a rep. So let's click submit. Information's been submitted. Okay, so now as a customer, whatever, I close the page, I'm done. And then as a representative, I got an email shot to me automatically because I programmed one, which we haven't done yet. We'll do that in a later video. So I'm going to log in as a rep, and we should see the case, and in which case we're just able to view the data. And because we're in test mode right now, it's saying that we don't have rights to access this page, and that's because by default it's trying to access the RMA module as an instantiator. But if we go to the portal, this is what the representative will see. It's a little confusing, but we're going to see our case here, and it's just called step 1. The reason that error message came up is because we're testing it in the I think it's the URL that it throws when you click run. If you're just to go to localhost 8080 and then log in as rep, you'd hit this panel right away. So let's click here. So we got a new to-do thing here. We have step 1. We click it, and we're going to go do it. And we can see all of the information that was entered into the system. And now we don't have anything after this, but this is great. That means that we already have a form built that lets us review the information. So what we can do from this point, and again, this is weird because remember, under the entire pool, we set a page flow, and then it hits the start and doesn't do anything. I guess that's just for visual purposes here, and then hits step 1. And step 1 has its page flow added to it. So now what we could do is some cool things here is we could actually like auto-generate an email to either a group of people or and insert a hyperlink to the exposed web port of your Bonita server, for instance. Or we could apply some logic as well too. I mean, if we wanted to, we could add a gateway. Oops. Let's see. Did I screw that up? Add this. We click and drag this. Oh, nope, that's not it. If we wanted to add a gateway, let's say we wanted to apply some logic here, and so we could have even a third lane. Sorry to get a little brainstormy here, but maybe the representative is just responsible for approving or denying, and then once the RMA is approved, the job gets sent to somebody else whose responsibility is to actually, either communicate that to the customer. Maybe we could auto-generate an email to the customer with the information that they need to process or to send the RMA back with, like the address and the RMA number. But I'm trying to think here, what would be the best thing to show you guys here. So let's go back. Let's just change this a little bit and make this a little bit easier to understand here. So I'm going to delete that page flow there, and we're going to name this. Let's see here. So this is called step 1. This will be, what are we going to call this step? So this is going to be the step where we either approve, deny, or maybe request more information. I'm going to end this video short, and we're just going to give it an instant approval or denial, and then an email back to the customer. This should teach you quite a few things. This is not how our process is actually going to operate. I just want to plow through this and give you guys a good starting point. It's here, approve or deny. And we're going to add a variable to our pool, because to actually have logic, we need a variable so we can check that variable. So we're going to go data, we're going to add a variable, and we're going to call this RMA approved, and that's going to be a Boolean, so a true or false. So we'll go Boolean, and we'll go finish and add, cancel. It's still there though, right? RMA approved Boolean, perfect. So we're going to add a page flow to this approve deny. We're going to go add, and we're just going to keep it easy and have it as a checkbox. And if it's unchecked and they hit submit, you could put 2 buttons down at the bottom where it says approve or deny and do some logic and change the value that way. But just for this video, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to finish, and then what we can do is we can we can make these fields read-only, so they can't accidentally, the approver can't accidentally change the transaction ID, the RMA reason, or the PayPal email. I mean, they don't need to change this because this is user supplied information. And let's see, RMA approved, and that is not read-only. And then submit, we're going to change that to English. Submit, that's under label here. Boom, enter. And we'll keep the internal facing labels here ugly with just the variable name, just to speed the video up here. And let's see here. So and this is our RMA. So just to show you here, this is the web form for the customer. This is the web form for the rep. What we're going to do here, just to give you a few more cool pieces of information, is we're going to set these to required. So we're going to go options is mandatory on item number, and we're going to make the reason for return mandatory, just those 2, just for demonstration purposes here. So we got 2 mandatory fields. Let's go back to approve or deny, and then we can see here already that if we go under data, the RMA approved will take the value of the check. So if they leave this, if it's unchecked, it's going to hit our, what we're going to do is program a gateway here, which we do by going like this. Boom, get her nice and centered, and we're going to maybe have 2 different emails that are sent depending on which, whether it was approved or denied. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to have 2 more options that happens here. We're going to email the customer either they're approved or denied. And these are done with, this is like a human type element. This is like a non-human type element. I'll explain that a little better in further videos as I understand more and more of this stuff. So we have our gateway here. I'm just to keep it clean, I'll keep this down here. I guess it doesn't really matter what pool these are in, just because these are non-human events. So we'll call this one, step will be email approval, and then this one will be email denial. And let's see here. So I think then what we do is we select the gateway. We need to set the gateway type to exclusive. And then why do we have this here? must be default or conditional. And so the default is going to be email at denial. So what we can do is select this little line connecting the gateway and say this is the default flow, and then select this one and say condition, and this will be, we can click this and click edit, and that gives us a handy variable RMA approved, and then I believe it's equals true. Let's see if that works. We still have a error. All must be default or conditional. If you want to use using an inclusive gateway, well, maybe I'm wrong. No, that doesn't seem right. Last time I did this, it was an exclusive. Okay, now the thing's gone. It was just an error there because I didn't refresh it. So depending on, let's see here. So now what we're going to do is play around with connectors. I'm going to do this really quick and dirty here. So let's see here. We're going to select the email approval and add a connector. Add. And this is going to get our list of all the cool things you can do with Bonita. We're going to do the email connector. We're just going to say email approve. We're going to set our security. Let's see here. We'll do PC Doodle. What the hell is my Gmail? Yeah, PC Doodle. Minneapolis@gmail.com. Let's go. Can we test this? Test. Maybe when I unselect it. Go forward. And the from will be PC Doodle. Minneapolis@gmail.com. We could say PayPal email that was specified. What's kind of cool about that? And then what's other here? Don't need that stuff. And subject is going to be your RMA was approved. Please ship your products to 123 Easy Streets. Blah 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 blah. And we'll go. Let's test here. That's not test email gateway. So we'll go finish. And then let's go email denial, and we'll do the same thing. We're going to add a connector, so we'll click click it. We're going to go connector, add, messaging, email, next, email deny, next. There's probably an easier way to do this. Let's do PC Doodle. Minneapolis@gmail.com. Next. And we'll go to PayPal email. Boom. Subject will be your RMA was denied. Now, what we could have done in the approve or deny process there, we could have added a description of why it was denied and then embedded that into the email. But for demonstration, we're just going to say your request has been denied. Brain not working today. Okay, finish. Okay, so let's see what happens here. So I'm going to go run. And it's going to log us in by default as RMA, just because we instantiated it from Bonita instead of going to localhost 8080. And now we can see that item number is required, and the return reason is required. And now we should have made the PayPal email required because Bonita is depending on it now. So we'll make that change later. So I'm going to do this direct tracksler@yahoo.com. We're going to go submit. And just for giggles here, I'm going to show you what it's like logging in as a rep. I'll use a different browser so there's no cookies, and then we're just going to go localhost 8080/Bonita, and it's going to ask us for our login, and we're going to go rep login. Oh, we forgot to send an endpoint on our process, but let's make sure email connector is working here. So we have this task here, approve or deny. We're going to click it. We're going to click do it, and we can see our read-only fields here, like okay, RMA approved, RMA reason. We should have set to a text area because I could have typed a ton of information and then we wouldn't be able to see it. But it looks like this is a legit reason for approval, so I'm going to check RMA approved and hit submit. And let's check my email here real quick. So let me get this open on a separate, let's see here, a separate browser. Let's see here. See if this worked. If this worked, I'll consider this video a success. And I hope this helps you get going with Bonita. Yes. And if we could peek here at my Yahoo Mail with about 5 bajillion unread messages, we can see that we received, don't use Yahoo Mail, it sucks. We can see we got an email from pcdoodleminneapolis@gmail.com, and it said request has been denied. Very fancy. Anyway, I hope this video kind of helps you kickstart your experience with Bonita. Again, it seems like this is extremely powerful software, and I'm only covering the very tip of the iceberg. Again, we might be making more videos in the future. Really depends, but I hope this one kind of helped accelerate it. I know that a lot of the other videos on YouTube don't really break it down end to end. Looks like we got 32 minutes here. It seems a little bit long, but I hope it was helpful.